Hi, Randy Gerber here. Today I am showing you how to make homemade wheat bread using natural leavening. I'm going to show you what natural leavening is in case you've never seen it before. This is like what they used to use to make bread all the time. This was the only option, the only way to rise your bread. And you actually grow this, and this particular one has been around since well before the 1800s. Some people use it as a sourdough. They'll leave it on the counter. You can also refrigerate it, and then it's not a sourdough. I don't usually make sourdough bread. I'm just making regular sweet honey bread, so honey wheat bread. So I'm just using the refrigerator type. You'll have to get a start from somebody. You can make your own, but it's really tricky. Or you can find a place online where you can order a start and then hydrate it and feed it. But anyhow, this is what they are. Or find a baker who uses natural leavening, like sourdoughs and things like that, and they could probably give you a start. But go to that in just a minute. To start the bread, we're going to just use water. It calls for 2.5 cups of water in the recipe, but I'm going to start with 1. And I'm going to warm it up on the stove with honey. Some honey in there. And that's a 1/3 cup of honey. And then a heaping tablespoon of coconut oil. And I heap it pretty good. So then just kind of stick that in there, and we're going to melt it on the stove until the coconut oil and the honey is melted, because you can see they're both solids. And coconut oil is your healthiest cooking oil to use. It can handle high temperatures without disrupting its chemical makeup. So that's why I like to use coconut oil for a lot of my cooking. So we're just going to mix this up as it heats. And we'll come back to you as soon as this is done melting. Okay, so we've got the coconut oil and the honey mixed in our cup of water. Now I'm going to add salt to it. And I like to use Himalayan salt because it's much healthier than regular table salt. I'm going to do 2.5 teaspoons of that. Actually, just slightly under 2.5. Okay, mix that in with it. And then what I'm going to do is add another 1.5 cups of water. And the reason I do it separately is because this gets pretty warm. And you don't want your yeast to be killed immediately by your hot water that's too hot. So this makes sure at the end you just have lukewarm water. You can fill it. And then it's ready to add the yeast right to it. Now the other cool thing about natural leavening is it actually digests the gluten as it rises the bread. So people that normally have gluten intolerances typically can eat this bread without any trouble. People who are celiac might still need to be careful, especially if they've developed full allergies to gluten. But I have heard of even celiacs who do really well on this bread, so it might be worth tasting a little and seeing if it could work for you. With the yeast, I'm going to add it should kind of look like this. See how it kind of all sticks together? That's happy yeast that's ready to be used. It should also be kind of bubbly. You can see how it kind of bubbles in there. That's when you know it's ready to use also. So that's what good yeast should look like. Nice and bubbly and kind of spider webby almost. Okay, so I'm going to pour all of this in my pan. More honey in my spoon, so I'll just stick it in there. If you can get like raw local honey, that's always the best. If you buy stuff at the store, a lot of times they'll put high fructose corn syrup and things like that in it, so you never know quite what you're getting. So I recommend using good honey. Just real quick. All right. So next we're going to add our flour, and I always fresh grind it, so I just barely ground this wheat. If you don't have a wheat grinder, I highly recommend it because wheat loses a lot of its nutrients really quickly within the first 3 days. So if you do it right after you grind it, you're going to keep a lot of the nutrients in the wheat. Let me grab a measuring. Alright, so it's going to take about 6 cups of whole wheat flour. And I just use a dough hook. And I'm going to slowly add the flour. And then just turn it on and let it do its thing. And you're gonna add about the first 4 cups you can handle all at once, maybe even the first 5 cups. Then that last cup you'll kind of slowly add and let it finish up. And then I'll kind of show you towards the end what it's supposed to look like as it finishes up. Okay, so it's been about 9 minutes. And as you can see, if you kind of lift it up, it just kind of stays together. It's just kind of really stretchy. That's how it's, you know, it's about ready. So this is good for now. We'll go with that. All you gotta do now is just put it in a bowl overnight. And it's 10 o'clock at night. And so by about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, it should be about ready, if all goes well. So I'm just gonna take it from here, and it's a little sticky. I like it that way because I like my bread really moist. I don't like it dry at all. So homemade bread especially has a tendency to go dry faster because it doesn't have all the gunk in it. Just good stuff. So I'm just gonna kind of show you how to make it into a dough ball. But yeah, so it's a little bit sticky. Oh crap. Too sticky. Okay, might stick to your can if you leave it for too long. Once you put it in your greased bowl though, it'll be okay. Just kind of get the stuff all around it, the oil on it. Make it into a nice ball. Plop it in there. Cover it up with some plastic wrap. And we'll let it sit. And then 1 second here, I'm going to show you how to feed your yeast after you've made bread with it. You want to feed it right after every time you make bread. Put this on there. Keep it fairly airtight if possible so it stays nice and moist till morning. Alright, so now we have our yeast and it needs to be fed. See, it's kind of runny. You don't want it runny after you feed it. So I'm going to add some water to it. I don't really measure. Some people measure to be exact. I don't. I just kind of said, okay, I have about that much start. I'm going to add about that much water and just kind of eyeball it. So you mix it up with the water first. So it'll be really runny. Just try to mix it in real as good as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect by any means. Then you're just going to add your flour to it. And I always use just regular whole wheat flour. Okay, so we'll start with that much. Mix it in there real good. You're going to want to feed your start about a day and a half to 2 days before you're ready to use it. So it'll be ready to make bread again, not tomorrow, but the next day. You can have several starts going at once. Every time you feed your start, it almost doubles in size. So if you have too much, you can make waffles with it, you can make pancakes with it, you can make crepes with it, all sorts of different things, or you can just throw it away if you've got more than you can use. You don't have to keep doubling it. You'd end up with so much start in your fridge you wouldn't know what to do with it. So, okay, so that's about the kind of consistency you're going to look for. See, that's really quite thick. And you're just going to want to mix that really good, especially make sure you get the bottom. A lot of times the bottom stuff doesn't mix in as well, so you just got to make sure you pull it up each time and get that all in there good. And then you just refrigerate it. If you keep it refrigerated, it doesn't turn sour. If you want sourdough, you can make some that you keep on your counter that's sour. I actually have one sourdough start and then one regular start, so sourdough bread's another day's video, but for now, we'll go with just whole wheat bread. And that should do it. When you put your lid on, you actually put your lid on upside down so it doesn't seal. Because you do want this to have just a little bit of air, and I don't even really seal it. I just kind of barely just stick it on there. And then I put it in my fridge. And make sure you feed it at minimum every 3 to 4 days, otherwise it'll die. And if it dies, you have to get another start. So, alright, we will come back in the morning and I will show you the next step in bread making.